Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. I also just want to remind you to turn on the notifications so you can be sure to be sent every video if you enjoy the channel. I am doing this video today and I want you guys to know that we are going to definitely go down the mental gymnastics of fat acceptance in this video. So I just realized that I forgot this person's name, but I think it's like, I don't know. It's fat, fab, feminist, fab, fatty, fat, femme, you know. It's one of those variations. If fat acceptance activists were Pokemon, it would be one of the stages of evolution of the combination of fat, fab, and feminist. So let's go ahead and go into it. She does a huge amount of mental gymnastics. So I am warning you, this may cause a bit of brain numbing. But the question I want to ask before I get started is, why do you think so many fat acceptance activists focus so much on dating preferences? Because I'm honestly not sure. But let's go ahead and start.
Obesity isn't real.
So basically, what somebody said is obesity is a disease and that's not attractive. That's true. For the majority of people, they will not find it attractive. However, I will disagree. It's not a disease, it is actually a symptom of another disease, be it mental or physical. Let's continue.
Obesity isn't real.
That's not true. But look at this dance. I don't know. Fierce Fat Femme. That's what it is. Damn. I got her name wrong. Whatever. So, I don't understand her sort of presentation. She is one of the ones that she's in between. She's like, for me, she's between a splotch and a jock scientist. Like, jock scientist really, really makes you mad. Splotch maker is just amusing. This person, fierce fat femme, I'm guessing, if I read that correctly, she's in between for me. So there's some of what she says that irritates me and some of what she says that is amusing. But her attitude is very grating. It's extremely grating to me.
It's a made up thing. It is truly a made up thing because really behind the word obesity.
Okay, so get ready for the mental gymnastics. Okay.
Is basically just a scientific way to dehumanize fat people and make the world, well, really, Western society, believe that fat people are a problem or a disease. Fat is not a disease.
Okay, so the weirdest thing about this is that for literally decades and decades, calling somebody fat was an insult. I still think it is. I think if you were to go outside and call somebody fat, that would be really offensive to most people. And so it's very strange to me that she, and I guess fat acceptance in general, they get to decide what is offensive for everybody and what isn't. To me, obesity is a medical term. It doesn't have as much of a stigma or a connotation to it as fat, in my opinion. I think it's stupid when the doctors say this person has obesity. It's like weird. I think it's better to just say an obese person. It's just an adjective. But overall, obesity is a medical term. It has a specific meaning. You can say it's made up, but by that logic, everything is made up. The color blue is made up. The sky is made up. You know, every term we use for every single thing is a part of language. So everything, therefore, is made up. I mean, it's just... You're losing the forest for the trees here. Like, this is just ridiculous. I don't understand their passionate position on the word obese versus fat. I just don't. I really don't.
Okay. So before you come spewing things, make sure you fact check yourself. Make sure you look into what you're saying. I just want you to know that obesity is not real. And if you come from me being like, everything science says is 100% fact driven and truthful, I will debunk your ass quick. Because while I believe in science, I'm not an anti vaxxer or any of the things that make people who are like, science isn't real. I'm not one of those. But
You are, though. Secondly, I just want to say every single person that looks at science, they believe some things over others. They favor some studies over others. They have experiences that line up with some things over others, especially in the biological sciences, nutrition science, anything health related, any of those categories. People will always have what they think is true. You will find so many people that are diehard vegan, and they will find as many studies as they possibly can to support veganism. They will fund it. They will do everything they can. It's the same thing with keto. All I know is on both of those diets, I felt like absolute trash, and they were completely unsustainable for many reasons. So I think, yes, it's fine to take science with a grain of salt. It's fine to question things. It's completely fine. I don't believe in science as a religion. I just don't. I don't believe that scientific dogma should exist or that things are above reproach or above question within science. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe in science in general. It just means I don't make science my religion, which is basically what she's saying here. And that's fine. But you're a cherry picking science believer. That's what I'll say. That's what you are.
I am is a person who says science is a human based experiment, basically, right? Scientists are humans, and all humans are flawed, and all humans have biases. So, if we've looked over the history of science, there have been many times where science has been wrong.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Like when science was super racist and said that white people had bigger brains than people of color, okay? Or like when science said that homosexuality was a disease and a mental illness.
You cannot compare being obese to those. I can guarantee you, being gay, there's no real steps you can take to change your orientation. If you're able to change it, it's because you're bisexual. People do erase all the time, but it is a thing. There's no diet and exercise protocol I could do to become straight, just as there's no way of eating or living or lifestyle that could make a Black person into another race. Like, it's a huge, huge difference. And it's just sort of ridiculous, I guess, to make those comparisons. I get her argument is basically that we just haven't progressed far enough, and we just are still in the stone ages of science and whatever. And, fatness is amazing and wonderful. And in 100 years, people will see that we were right the whole time and we're on the right side of history. That's her logic. But you guys gotta stop comparing everything to civil rights. You just have to stop. Like, this is an issue of the left. And I'm just saying that with love. You guys make everything a civil rights issue. Things like welfare, things like taxes, things like the border. It's like everything always goes back to civil rights. with a lot of you guys. And I think this rogue fat acceptance movement, it's trying to copy you, but it was still a failed premise in the beginning. Not everything ties directly into civil rights or discrimination. Civil rights and discrimination has to do with specific things that a specific group of people cannot do for no other reason other than that they are that thing. And they try to make this comparison all the time. But when you think about, is it discriminatory to block a fat person from getting on a horse if they're too big? No, it isn't, because it isn't just because you're fat. It's because you could injure the horse. So there's another factor of why you can't ride the horse. If you tell somebody you can't ride the horse because you're black, what other reason could they not ride the horse other than the color of their skin? Does a horse care? No, a horse doesn't. It's no different to a horse, right? It's like you're making such a huge leap here, and it's just terrible arguments, honestly. It kind of disgusts me that this person is educated. This person went to university. It really disgusts me. It's shocking.
Okay. So when science can get multiple things in history wrong and then come back and be like, oops, my bad, science can also dehumanize an entire group of people to make others believe that they are a problem. And then later down the line, they rewrite what they're saying. Just like right now when science.
I guess this is her experience of academia. I think there's some truth to that, but I also think that it is more, it's a bit more regulated than that, I guess. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's not just simply, oh, we just don't feel it anymore, so we changed our minds. It's like, no. There are certain cultural conversations within a civil rights context that did occur and that needed to occur and that needed to change. And maybe that did affect science, but it just goes to show that science is, it's an offshoot of culture, if that makes any sense. So that I agree with, but to say that science has no basis in any kind of fact, or that it will just suddenly change, that people will suddenly view this issue differently, it's just absurd. There's way too much evidence. Like, I understand certain cultural conversations and civil rights struggles that have occurred, but when you look at something like gravity, it doesn't matter how much culture shifts. Like, we're still gonna know the scientific theory of gravity. It's really on the same level when it comes to obesity. You guys are denying that gravity exists. There's just so many natural biological forces that do show and prove over and over and over again that being overweight causes issues and strain upon your body. So stop acting like it doesn't. You're a gravity denier. You are a science denier. I don't know what else to say. Like I said, there is being skeptical of science and there is being an outright science denier. If you deny the theory of gravity, then you are a science denier. You are doing something on par with that. Culture will only ever go so far. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Actually talking about how diets and yo-yo dieting is one of the leading causes of heart disease and heart attacks. Even though for years people have been like, you know what? Fat people are the reason why we are the leading cause of heart disease. It's like, ever heard of stress? Ever heard of the stress that it puts onto you when
There are so many people that are so much more stressed than the average fat person and they don't have heart attacks. I mean, you need to look at your actual like evidence here. Is somebody who goes to war and has horrible experiences in Vietnam or, wherever else, and they're not having a heart attack, is it really equal to being shamed for your body? I mean, this is ridiculous. We do know that stress does play a role in aging and body degradation, and that trauma does exist, but this idea of micro traumas or microaggressions, right? This type of thing, it doesn't really have much evidence. It's so subjective. It really depends on how you take it. So, but again, within this context, if you felt that these microaggression type of shaming of your body vibe was going to kill you, wouldn't you still want to lose weight to avoid dying from shaming? I mean, it's so ludicrous. It's so obvious that you don't even believe that.
Shamed constantly or not treated like a human being. Okay, so anyways, obesity isn't real. It's a very easy way to debunk this. And
I think the reason why these people cause a lot of people to hate fat people is that their complete self-absorption and self-obsession causes them to constantly devalue the trauma that other people have been through on much greater levels than them. And it's not an issue of like you describing your own trauma or talking about things, but it's like you're always comparing your broken nail to somebody who got their arm cut off. That's what it sounds like. When you compare fat phobia to racism, fat phobia to homophobia, when you compare fat phobia to, or the stresses of fat phobia to real life stresses that are absolutely horrific, like war, things that went down in World War II that I'm not going to mention on this channel. But when you really think about the stuff that people do, that people have gone through, it's just like, you really think that we're that weak, that we can't handle being told you're fat or you should lose weight, that's going to give us a heart attack. And it wouldn't be the absolutely terrible health habits that you have that accumulate over many years. I mean, the logic is just so terrible. It is so piss poor. It's crazy.
I'm just not going to play around with the idea that a lot of people are in the comments being like, it is your preference, it is your preference, it is your preference. No, it's not. You're going to look me in the eyes and you're going to tell me that no matter what a person has to offer you, their personality, their vibes, their things that they care about, their morals, their values, no matter any of that, if they're fat, you're like, it's a preference, okay? I don't date fat people.
You don't get that people need to be attracted to somebody to want to date them. If you're not attracted to somebody physically, but they align with you in all these other ways, then you might just want to be their friend. It's called the friend zone, sweetie. It's really not that deep. And this is why I asked you guys, why do you think she's so obsessed with preference? Because it's like, jeez.
What?
Because I put so much.
Okay, so here's the next one. I hate her, like,
What?
I hate that. I can't stand it. It drives me nuts.
What?
Because I put so much work into myself, and if I don't see that being replicated in them.
Was that necessary? Like, I don't know. I get it. I guess I can be cringe sometimes, but I think I just don't like her. So it's kind of like, anyways, let's just continue.
This is like this guy's full-time job to like make a video where he goes into a gym, asks a bunch of people, would you date an overweight person? Also, I'm just like, can you just say fat? Because over what weight?
Over a healthy weight. I know. I just had to say that just because I knew that would hurt her feelings. I know that was bitchy of me.
over what weight anyways. So for context, before this dude's like, would you date someone who's overweight? And the guy's like, no. Well, like, how much overweight? And then he's like, no, I wouldn't. And then gives that reason that he wouldn't date a fat person because he puts a lot of care into himself and he wants to date someone who does the same.
Just because you say that in that tone, it doesn't make it ridiculous. It sounds perfectly logical. You know, at this point, I have put a lot of work in, and I kind of feel the same way. I'm not going to lie.
I'm so tired of that narrative that fat people don't put a lot of work into themselves. Excuse me, we have dealt with years and years of trauma from people just like you.
4 people? What does that mean? I don't think any thin person is just really relishing and enjoying fat people's trauma. I mean, that just sounds crazy.
Most of us are in fucking therapy if we can afford it. And we're also doing a lot of self-work. We also have put in time and...
We is not you. Just say what you've done. I mean, you're just projecting a lot of stuff.
Effort to shop where there's no fashion trends for fat people. That's a lot of work.
Is it more work than just doing the diet and exercise? Because if so, it might just be worth it.
That's a lot of work. We also do a lot of work convincing other people around us to...
I'm telling you guys, I'm going to say it. I have no issue distancing myself from fatness. If this is what being fat is, I would never, I'm just so over it. Like, I think about it most of the time from a physical health perspective because I've been very physically ill the past few years. But when I do think about the social aspects of being fat, like I have, especially recently since I've been feeling better, it's so cringe. It's horrible. You know, I think I do pretty well. I think a lot of fat people are relatively well liked and we're okay, but there's a lot of cringy factors to being fat that are just horrible. And I think, especially since I'm losing the weight, I can just be honest about that and just be like, I don't ever want to think about this shit. Like, look at how much she has to deal with, or what she has to think about, or what she has to waste her time on being fat. Like, do you want to be fat forever and have to do that? Because I sure as hell don't. It's just awful. And it's like, you can change.
That's a lot of work. And if you want to go down the...
It's just as much work as just doing the work on yourself and just being healthier and being better. It's like, I'd rather just do the work than sit here and like jump through all these gymnastics, try to get people to feel a way that they don't. I mean, it's just cringe. You know, I'll be honest, this woman, she could be very pretty if she lost weight. She probably wouldn't be struggling with dating if she wasn't fat. She doesn't want to put the effort in. She doesn't want to work on these psychological issues that are leading her to overeat, or these physical health issues that are leading her to gain weight. She doesn't want to put the work in. I get it. It's not easy. It isn't. But I don't think any of this is easy either. And I think we really need to reflect on that as fat people. You know, when I see this, I think, oh, thank God, I will never have to ever think about this or think like this or ever again, because I certainly have in my past. And it's just horrible. It's endless. Well, for most, but there is a way out. So I'm taking it, period.
route. A lot of fat people get in a lot of movement. Actually, like that world's strongest man competition, a lot of those people would be considered fat, and they're the strongest people in the world. So I don't totally understand what's your logic. And also, here's the thing. There is no logic behind fat phobia. There is no.
There's no logic behind what you're saying. You are getting on camera and having a huge emotional reaction to a guy that doesn't know you, has never thought about you, just nothing. And then you're taking your emotional triggers and projecting it onto every fat person. And I'm not saying that some of what you're saying here isn't relatable, because it is. It's a little too relatable to me. Like, I feel like I've jumped through these gymnastics when I was a teenager. And it's just really cringe all around.
It's a bunch of fake arguments to make people who are losing pieces of control feel like they can control things that are not controlled.
I mean, come on, girl. Just get your shit together. Just get it together. Go to therapy. Find God. Go to the gym. Figure out why you have to eat so much. Change it. Fight it. Do something. Put some effort into that. You probably would be fine. But instead, you'd rather put all this work and believe in this fat acceptance ideology. Do something, please. I mean, this is just crazy.
And it is built in racism and misogyny, and I've already done a video on that. Just scroll back, you'll find it. But overall, I again want to know, why do we keep giving platforms to these people? And I know I'm doing it here. I know. I'm giving them a platform here.
You're doing it because you're emotionally triggered and you feel really insecure, and you feel like perhaps, I think, maybe you've been experiencing this issue within dating. Maybe you're not able to get the types of guys that you're wanting. I could relate to that. You know, maybe I'm just projecting. I don't know, but I experienced that at this point. Does that mean that I always will? Certainly not, because I just got my shit together. I mean, it's ridiculous to shame people for their preferences. I would never shame you for yours. You know, you probably really want a very attractive guy or something. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I don't know that much about your life, but it's just very odd to me how much you talk about this issue. A lot of your TikToks are about preferences.
To dispel this myth, like, I just need someone who's gonna like put as much care and effort into themselves as I do. It's like, what does that mean? Are you going to therapy? Because that's a lot of work. I don't care about how much work you're putting in the gym. What about your emotional work?
I mean, right back at you. Figure out why you're eating so much. Is it a physical issue? Is it an emotional issue? Is it a mental issue? Is it a spiritual issue? It's really only one of those 4 things. So just look into it.
Do you have friends that you're talking to? Your sister later on in the video says you have a girlfriend. If she gets fat, you're just gonna be like, sorry, peace out. I only care about people who have had enough work. And then it sounds like
They usually would say something before it got that bad. Because I know she doesn't understand this, but to average people that are especially into fitness, they consider fitness a part of their life. It's a part of their lifestyle. I know that because it's a part of mine now. So I get it. Because it's really hard to get somebody to take it seriously if they don't want to. So when you're looking for a partner, as somebody who is into fitness, you want somebody who already has that in their lifestyle, because you don't have to do all the work. And usually people don't really go back once they've fully gotten into it. Especially if they're in shape. It takes a lot of effort to get in shape. So it's like, I don't know. It's not like a negative, it's not an illogical assessment of a partner. It just isn't. So you keep trying to act like it's ridiculous, like it's insane, like it's this, like it's that. It's not. It's perfectly logical. And I understand it now as somebody who goes to the gym very, fairly often. I understand it.
You're saying when you say,
Here we go again about preferences, okay? Let's do this again. I agree we don't need to perpetuate fat phobia, but it's also okay to have personal preferences. So this is somebody that's mostly sympathetic to her rhetoric and to the things that she says. It's probably, somebody in her cohort, somebody that shares most of her political perspectives. But even this isn't enough.
I don't find fat people attractive. You're telling me that regardless of personality, political beliefs, morals, values, characters, ethics, all the connections, the way they make you feel, etc., that if they were fat, it's a no-go. And to me, that is a huge red flag, because it's not actually that you care about the personality, etc. All you're seeing is a fat body, and you are just perpetuating the fat phobia that we've all learned in this culture. Listen, I am forgiving of that, because we all were indoctrinated into fat.
It's physical attraction. Do you understand what that is? There's a part of me that seriously questions if a lot of these FAs have a sex drive. Because the way that they talk about these things, it's like, do you not understand what all of us are understanding? Because I can tell you, I have gotten healthier, and I have the unfortunate problem of being very attracted to douchey guys. I said it. If there was conversion therapy to not be attracted to douches, then I would take that. Honestly, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, but not. But it's like, it's not my fault. I like a guy who's in shape, a guy who's tall, a guy who's extroverted, a guy who's cheesy, the sunshine to my midnight rain. He has to understand that I'm a Swiftie. He doesn't have to like her, but he has to respect that she's a good artist. That's my line. I don't need him to go to the concerts. I don't need him to go to the movie with me when I go. I don't need that. He just has to respect it. It's fine. As you can see, my standards are through the roof. I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying, is it my fault that I'm attracted to somebody like that? I don't know. It's just cringe, man. Because I can assure you, the guys that I've liked, a lot of my friends did not like them.
Phobia as a culture, as a society. We all learned it. We all grew up in it. We are all consistently having to battle it. We would all be better if we were all working towards fat liberation, because it liberates all of us in all different bodies.
Again, is it easier to work towards fat liberation, or is it easier to just do the work? That's the question I have for you.
You have to do that critical thinking work and that investigating. And I mean you in the general sense, not directed entirely at this person, but to everybody who believes that not finding fat people attractive is just a preference, because it's not.
It literally is. There are a lot of people that find fat people attractive. It's part of why I'm having an issue with dating, because I'm losing weight. Just find somebody that has a preference for you. And if, unfortunately for you, it's not the type of guy that you're attracted to, then you may have to adapt. This is basic. basic stuff. Is it my fault that I like foreign men? I guess it is. I guess it is. I guess it's my fault that I like men at all, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like, do you guys feel the frustration that I do? Like, what does she want? What do you want from me? That's how I feel watching you, girl. What the fuck do you want from me? It's just crazy.
Very simply, fat phobia. And we have a duty to be more empathetic and compassionate communicators and more critical thinkers in the hopes that we can create a society.
You only want people to be critical if they disagree with you. Why don't you be a critical thinker? Why don't you think critically about your ideas? Because they would fall flat within an instant. That's why you don't. And then you'd have to actually do something.
That doesn't continue to spew hatred onto others based on their body size and shape. So, is it actually...
Not being attracted to somebody is not the same thing as spewing hatred. You need to calm down. Seriously. They're not at all the same.
Preference that you just don't find fat people attractive? Or is it fat phobia and white supremacy and misogyny that's under...
Reach, girl. The back is breaking. It's breaking bad.
Those feelings? I think this is like, it's just a moment where you kind of sit aside and instead of putting the defenses...
I don't even think she believed that. Like, her tone kind of got weird. Let's hear that again.
That's underlying those feelings. I think this is like...
That you just don't find fat people attractive? Or is it fat phobia and white supremacy and misogyny that's underlying those feelings?
I think this is like...
To me, her tone changed. Maybe I'm tripping. I'm going a little cuckoo after listening to her.
It's just a moment where you kind of sit aside and instead of putting the defenses up, right? Instead of being like...
Why don't you try to listen to somebody else's perspective of why they don't find fat people attractive and listen to them without putting your defenses up? Why don't you take your own advice?
I'm allowed to have personal preferences. It's like, okay, take a moment and think about...
I'm a fat person. I was able to listen without putting my defenses up.
Like, where are your personal preferences coming from? Where are they truly coming from?
Biology. Biology.
What is informing them? Don't be fat phobic.
You guys, let me know what you think. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. That's all I can... I'm kind of speechless. I will just say, I'm not a straight man, honey, but I will speak for men a little bit. If you talk to guys like that, they are going to be like, what the actual fuck? So I hope you don't. That's just a little bit of advice for you, because they are not going to understand anything of what you're saying. I barely did. Barely. I don't even know if a lot of the women in the comments and stuff really understand what you're saying. Like, it's bad, but it's just so convoluted and so long and so like mental gymnastics and da, 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 da. It's just like, girl, just a word of advice. Don't talk to men like that. Just speak directly, or more directly and succinctly. Anyways, you guys, have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.